Sure, here's a powerful and honest 500-word story on the brutal reality about caring for elderly parents no one talks about. Let me know if you'd like this adapted into a voiceover script. It would need to be shortened to just 2 sentences for that. The brutal reality about caring for elderly parents no one talks about. When my father had his first stroke, I naively believed the hardest part would be the hospital visits. I told myself, this is temporary. I didn't yet understand that this was just the beginning of a long, slow goodbye. After the hospital came the home care. My siblings scattered when real responsibilities showed up. One lived out of state. The other suddenly had a job that required more travel. So it was me, daughter, caregiver, part-time employee, full-time emotional wreck. No one tells you that when a parent's health declines, your own life quietly starts to vanish. Hobbies are replaced with prescriptions and physical therapy appointments. Weekends? Gone. They're now for bathing, changing sheets, managing finances, and trying to convince your parent to eat something. Anything. I didn't realize how hard it would be to watch the person who once taught me how to ride a bike now forget how to use a spoon. There's grief in that. Deep, slow-burning grief. But you don't get to mourn. Not really. You're too busy keeping them alive. The emotional toll is a thief. I felt trapped between guilt and resentment. Guilt for feeling angry, resentment for carrying it all. Friends stopped inviting me out. They didn't get it, and I stopped trying to explain. Even doctors spoke to me like I was the nurse. No one paused to ask if I was okay. I wasn't. I was exhausted, broke, and emotionally drained. There were nights I cried in the car before going inside, wiping my tears quickly so he wouldn't see. There is also the ugly truth about money. Insurance doesn't cover everything. In-home care is expensive. I cut my work hours, and my savings began to bleed out slowly. I worried constantly about what would happen when it ran dry. The emotional strain seeps into everything. I became short-tempered, anxious, and withdrawn. My relationship suffered. I didn't feel like a daughter anymore. I felt like a nurse, a maid, and a manager all wrapped into one underpaid, untrained role. And yet, this is love too. Not the kind you see in movies, all warm moments and reconciliations. This is the kind of love that wipes drool off a chin, that repeats the same answer 20 times without exploding. It's the love that wakes up at 3 a.m. because they're calling out in fear, not knowing where they are. But it's brutal. The brutal reality about caring for elderly parents is that it strips you bare. It shows you your limits. And still you do it, day after day, because deep down, you remember who they were before. Because you hope in some quiet place inside that when your time comes, someone will show up for you too. Let me know if you'd like this turned into something spoken. We'd have to shrink it, or if you'd like a second version with a different tone, more hopeful, poetic, or even humorous. Absolutely. Here's a second 500-word paragraph that continues the story, diving even deeper into the unspoken struggles and quiet strength involved in caring for aging parents. What they also never tell you is how isolating it becomes. You can be in a house filled with voices, nurses, doctors on speakerphone, your parent asking the same question again, and still feel completely alone. It's a different kind of loneliness, one that isn't cured by company. It comes from knowing that your life is now orbiting around someone else's needs entirely. You stop talking about your own dreams because they start to feel like ancient memories, selfish and unattainable. You start saying, maybe next year, or when things settle down, but they don't settle. The decline is slow, but relentless. You try to be grateful for the moments of lucidity, the days without pain or panic, but even those come with a sharp sting of knowing it's temporary. When friends do ask how you're doing, you give the polite version. We're managing. You don't tell them that last night you cleaned up after another accident and then sat on the bathroom floor for 20 minutes, too numb to move. You don't mention the rage that bubbles up sometimes. Rage at the unfairness of it all, at your siblings, at the broken healthcare system, even at your parent for needing so much. That's the part no one talks about, the shameful thoughts that creep in. The part of you that wants it to end, not because you don't love them, but because you're drowning. And then you hate yourself for even thinking it. Caring for someone in decline is a daily practice in self-erasure. You postpone your needs so many times that eventually you forget how to recognize them. Eating becomes something you do out of necessity, not enjoyment. Sleep is shallow and always interrupted. Even when you get a break, when someone else steps in for a weekend, you find it hard to relax. You're too used to being on edge, always listening for a fall, a cough, a cry for help. There's no off switch. There's only standby. And all of this happens in the shadows. Society praises caregivers in broad strokes, but the day-to-day, the reality, that's hidden because it's uncomfortable, because it reminds people of what may be waiting for them too. So we stay quiet. We keep showing up. We lift, clean, soothe, organize, and advocate. We fill pillboxes and coordinate doctor visits and memorize symptoms. We become experts in a language no one taught us, medical jargon, insurance codes, behavioral shifts. We become stronger, but not without cost. It's a strength built from necessity, not choice. Yet amid the exhaustion, there are moments, small and fleeting, that keep you going. A look of recognition, a gentle squeeze of your hand, a whispered thank you on a day when they remember who you are. It's not glamorous, it's not often enough, but it's something, and sometimes it has to be enough. Let me know if you'd like this edited for a specific tone, or if you want help turning parts of it into short scripts for voiceover. Of course, here's a 200-word paragraph that builds on the emotional depth of the story and brings a subtle sense of reflection and meaning. There comes a point in the journey when you stop waiting for things to go back to normal. You realize this is the new normal, and it forces a shift in perspective. You begin to see the moments others miss. The way their eyes soften when they recognize an old song, the quiet comfort of holding their hand during a hard night, the rare smile that breaks through confusion. These moments are not loud or dramatic, but they begin to matter more than anything else. You stop mourning the version of them that's gone and start loving the one that remains. Fragile, changed, but still deeply human. You also begin to see yourself differently. Yes, you are tired. Yes, you are stretched thin, but you are also capable of more than you ever thought. You carry the weight of love in its most demanding form. And in that, there is a quiet kind of honor. The world may not celebrate it. It may never be fully understood. But you know, you lived it. You showed up, even when it was hard. And that matters more than words will ever say. Let me know if you want to build this into something larger or transform parts of it into a spoken message.